if you change your language even slightly to mimic and meet somebody where they are, you will find a level of conscious awareness that is unsurpassed by anything else.
Crystal Adair-Benning is the secret weapon behind countless best-selling books as a 4-time New York Times best-selling ghostwriter and the CEO of Word Magic. Known for her quantum copy method, Crystal weaves human connection and sales psychology into writing that captivates, converts, and compels. She works with leaders, helping them claim their space as thought leaders with stories that spark movements. When she's not ghostwriting, the next bestseller, you'll find Crystal leading Lux book writing creation retreats in breathtaking locations, coaxing stories from writers while swimming under the stars. A nomadic wordsmith, Crystal travels the world, turning dreams into written reality for her clients. Crystal, thank you so much for coming on Triumph Talks.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm looking forward to this conversation because you are definitely a captivating writer. I enjoyed that bio so much, and I just can't wait to learn more about you. You're a ghostwriter, and you have some bestsellers that you've helped to write. So that fascinates me. I'd love to learn a little more about you, how you became a ghostwriter, and then let's jump into your quantum copy method, if you're willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I came to, being a ghostwriter in the most unconventional way possible, in that I literally fell into the job. I didn't know what a ghostwriter was.
Literally fell in it.
Literally fell in, feet first, head first, all of it. I just leapt and did it. And so my backstory is that when I was 14, I had an internship at a radio station, a beautiful radio station, one of the top 3 in the country at the time. And the person that I worked for at the radio station had some learning disabilities, couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't do research. And so I ended up doing all of the background research and coming up with the questions and all of that for the show host, who then shone with my word magic. And at the time, back then, we're talking a long time ago, guys. I'm not gonna date myself, but like back before Google was a thing.
I suspect I'm older than you, so it's okay.
It's okay, but back before Google was a thing, she basically, because she had a really popular radio show, got offered a book deal. But again, didn't know how to read or write really well. And so immediately asked me if I would take on this project. Now picture this.
How old were you when you started?
14. I was 14.
Wow.
So I didn't know what I didn't know. She offered me a verbal contract. Guys, get it in writing. Lesson learned. Or I'm about to tell you why it was a lesson learned. But she offered me a contract. I didn't know what a New York Times bestseller was. I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know a lot of it, to be honest with you. I was just a kid who was good at writing, liked researching. And I was pretty certain I could write a good book. Like I had the confidence of a 14-year-old to be able to be like, I can do this. Because nobody at that point had told me I couldn't. So like I was still fresh and going like, of course I can write a book. That seems totally normal. Why wouldn't I be able to? So I did. The book was published 2 weeks before I turned 16, went immediately to the New York Times bestseller list. And the person that I wrote the book for decided that she didn't want to pay me the money that she had promised for the book, and instead offered to pay me in dog food from one of the radio show sponsors.
And it was a bestseller. It's not like
it was a bestseller. But it is what it is. It all turns out for the best.
You should write a book about that. I'm not kidding. At least you could get some value to say, I think you can
make back my dog food money. Make back my dog food money. I mean, in the end, it all worked out for the best. Ultimately, the publisher that we worked with, they couldn't pay me because they had an agreement with the author. But instead, what they did was take me under their wing, teach me everything I know, groom me. Give me clients, give me new projects, and that's literally how my writing career
You got value for sure.
I got value for sure. Like it started off icky, it got super magical towards the end. All good things.
I love it. Yeah, karma, good karma. You had good karma for doing that work, and wow, That's amazing. I'm so impressed that you started so young. You're probably a record holder, except you're a ghostwriter,
I
so it's
don't
like
know that I don't know that I'm actually a record holder, if I'm honest. But I mean, my saving grace, truly, for anybody who wants to write a book out there, was, I mean, I had youth on my side, so that like unequivocal confidence that you have as a youth, like I can do anything. Of course, I can. I had that
yeah.
on my side, but more importantly, I just had this like intention of creating the best possible thing that I could. I didn't know what I didn't know. I wasn't going after status. I didn't have a desire to be on some bestseller list. That would never even entered into my brain when I was writing it. I loved writing. I loved the people patting me on the back and telling me I was doing a great job. I was a sucker for
Well, you
praise.
clearly had some talent. Must have been natural talent to start at that
Sure,
age.
but like
Yeah.
truly it came out of being able to like start from going, I just want to put out the best possible book I can, and putting everything I had into creating that.
That's just amazing. I'm so impressed. That's really neat.
That's still, for the record, by the way, how I write books. There is methodologies and things, of course, now that we know, but like,
Right.
truthfully, at the end of the day, whether my client's book becomes a New York Times bestseller or just an Amazon one or nothing at all, because they don't want to publish after they've written it, they just did it to say they could do it.
Yeah.
The goal for every single book I write is always just, how do I produce the best possible book I can out of the story?
Well, let's go there now.
Yeah.
What and maybe your quantum copy method might be a part of that, I assume.
It is.
If you want to talk about that and just what you do to write the best possible book that you can.
Yeah, so quantum copy method it's part copywriting, it's part book writing. It definitely fuels the book writing, because copy and book writing go very much hand in hand. So what I know for certain is that the way that we write the best possible book is to have kind of a couple different things taken care of. We need to understand who we are as writers, what are our belief systems, what are the natural biases and experiences and perceptions that have given us this viewpoint. And two, we need to kind of know where our client comes in. And by client, I mean reader. So when your reader comes in, what belief systems, experiences, challenges have they faced? And then we want to meld the two. So typically we want to meet the language of the clients, even if we're writing a book that's going to help, up level their mindset or transform them in some way, shape, or form, or that's going to be some kind of personal growth or business growth and development. We still have to meet the client or the reader where they're at in order to take them on the journey to improving and changing their lives, essentially. So quantum copy method is just a system where essentially I sat down and through a bunch of training, including NLP training, marketing training, sales training, and I started to recognize that there was patterns and synchronicities between all of these things that nobody else had really kind of put together. So when we look at sales psychology and personality types, we immediately start to see that, the way that you sell something to one person is not the way you sell something to somebody else. Then if you tie that into belief systems and, the trajectory of human experience, we start to recognize where people are in the path and how to connect to them. And there's very specific language that we use depending upon where we are on the path. I broke it down into a very simple, although I know it doesn't sound simple, but a simple
I was just
system.
going to say, simple. Okay.
Doesn't sound simple, but it is truly simple. And to learn it, essentially, there's 8 levels of human existence, and there's 4 personality types. And we basically break down and say, okay, if you're somebody who's an entrepreneur, for example, you speak a different language than the person who's, very involved in their family, not so worried about their career. We speak different languages. And this tool, actually, I started developing it and started using it in my marriage, with my own family, with my own clients. And I literally tested it for years just on the people around me to see, could I improve communication based on looking at the language patterns that we use and what we say and how it matters. And the beautiful thing is, if you change your language even slightly to mimic and meet somebody where they are, you will find a level of conscious awareness that is unsurpassed by anything else, simply by figuring out their language, their world.
Fascinating. So I guess that really starts with understanding your audience so that you know what the language is of the people you're writing to.
Yeah,
So is that where the quantum comes in? I love that word
yeah. So quantum is like, we all live and exist on multiple timelines. So when we start pulling from human behavior, human psychology, sales psychology, and we start looking at like belief systems and where we fit in the, like where we are in our existence and lives, that's where the quantum starts to come in, because it's pulling from all these different levels, and it's way to cut through the fat of communication and just be like, oh, you believe this, and I don't have to believe what you believe to connect with you. I just need to know the language that you're speaking, because oftentimes we mean the same thing, we're just using two different sets of vocabulary for the same thing. And I see this, like, especially right now in the political system. If you're watching politics in the US right now, there's a lot of people saying very similar things. They're just on two different levels. So they're speaking languages that are slightly different. And so we get a lot of discourse, when if you can literally just drop into their level, whatever it is, high or low, it doesn't actually matter. Whatever their level is, if you can drop into that, you can actually have constructive conversation and debate rather than argument and disagreement. And that in itself is a game changer for people.
So I agree that conceptually that's simple, like you said.
Totally.
But how do you know? This is where I think it might be. How do you know what is the language that you need to use? How do you come to understand what the terms are? Do you just have to already be in that community, or
no? Super easy.
You
need to open your ears more than you open your mouth. So as writers, the talent that is most overlooked by writers everywhere and people who want to write is the ability to become incredible listeners. When we sit and listen to the people in front of us and let them talk, don't interrupt them, just let them talk and listen to the words they are using. Try and do yourself a favor, exercise, write down the words they are using, and you will start to see patterns and beliefs and behaviors. So for example, my mom, I love her. She's a strong level 4. A level 4 is all about family values. My mom cares when people don't come to family dinner. My mom cares when somebody's sick and she will go and feed the family. My mom cares when I don't call after a couple of days. Like, my mom's the first one to pick up the phone and be like, where have you been? Right? Her belief system is all about family. And if you listen to her talk, oftentimes the stories she tells are all about family. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure out what her belief system is, what her core value is, when you listen to her for even 5 minutes. So I play this game with all of my students when we're writing. The first thing I ask them to do is take 24 hours and just go listen. Take yourself to dinner by yourself. Don't take somebody to distract you. And just go listen to the conversations around you and try and figure out what is their belief system based on what they're talking about. We have a tendency to talk our values into people, whether we intentionally mean to do it or not. We are so strong in our values and beliefs that we can't help but infer them in others. So say you have 2 women or 2 men, doesn't matter, sitting at a bar talking about a relationship. The advice, you're going to get one viewpoint, one belief system from the person that's like venting or talking about their relationship. You're going to get a complete different viewpoint usually from the person giving advice. And the advice that sticks is because they're speaking the same language. The advice that does not stick, where you can see the friend like roll their eyes and be like, ugh, is usually because they're speaking to them from a different perception, a different belief system. It's not hard to meet people where they're at. Just use your ears, not your mouth.
Interesting. So I want to ask, as a writer, when you go through the process of writing, do you spend a lot of time beta testing to see if you've captured the right language? And how do you, if you do, how do you find the right readers to be able to confirm if you got that right? Like, what's your process of sort of checking that you've achieved that goal? Does that make sense?
I mean, the short answer is like, I've beta tested enough words. I know the language that I need to speak, period. But if I was to start this from scratch, or when I have, students come through who work with me who are like, how do I beta test it? What I would recommend is figuring out who the book is for, what belief system they have, write it for them, then give that book to one person who you're certain is your ideal reader, and have them read it and give you feedback.
And
What
make sure
often,
they're willing to give honest feedback and not
right.
just,
So what
yeah.
often happens is we ask for feedback with no parameters. We don't actually, they don't know what to give you for feedback. When you just ask for feedback, they're like, well, the length was good. The sentences were nice. I felt like I was there. Like that's the type of feedback you tend to get. So what I often will say is, did you feel like, did this reach you emotionally? Did you feel something while reading this book? How did you feel about the character? Did it really kind of captivate you, or was there something off about the character? What lesson did you learn throughout this book? Because again, different perceptions, different life belief systems are going to take different
That's
takeaways.
a good question, because then you can see if the lesson you meant to deliver is the one that was received.
Absolutely. And a lot of my books are, you know, in the business realm, but they're tied to personal story. So a lot of times it's like, did the personal story get in the way of telling like the main message? Did you understand the main message? Were you confused in any parts? And let them talk. Don't feed them the answers. So many times writers will be like, well, did you understand that my character was trying to do this, that, and the other thing? You're leading them. The only option they can give you is yes or no at the end of that. Don't lead them.
That's not good data.
Yeah, it's not good data if you lead them. If you tell it, like, I might want my husband to buy me flowers. If I tell him, it ruins the fun. Like I'm getting flowers because he was told and he did what he was told. It doesn't have the same weight as if my husband shows up with flowers because he's just so in love and so excited, right? Same thing with your book audience. You don't want to lead them. You need them to give you genuine feedback. So I always look for the one or two people that I know are like the ideal audience, and they're my readers. They're my beta testers. I don't need to beta test it with 100 people to know whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I need to beta test it with 2 that are my ideal humans to read this book. I also have a firm belief that I never, ever let people who are in my family beta test my work ever.
Yeah, no, they're not going to give honest
feedback. They never give you honest feedback. Your best friend cannot do it for you. No family members. They need to be on the outside edges of your life. They need to not be in direct contact. My rule is like, if it's somebody I would invite to my home to sit at my dining table, they are not my beta reader. No matter how good they are, they're not my beta reader if they've sat at my table and had dinner with me.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. So along those lines, what other advice do you have, or what do you wish people knew about writing books?
Oh gosh. I mean, something that's kind of controversial. I don't think everybody actually needs to write a book. No. I get kind of like wrist slap from people who are like, what do you mean? Everybody should write a book. No, they shouldn't. There's lots of people that shouldn't write books. You shouldn't write a book if you're in the middle of something. If you're still in the wound of a situation, it's not the time to write the book about it.
Yeah.
Call me after the scar is healed and you've learned the lesson, and we can then talk about the book. If you're writing a business book, if you haven't been in business for 3 years at least, if you have not been actively practicing your wisdom and your IP and have it proven to have a track record that it works, don't write a business book telling me about this magic tool that you've used. Quantum copy method was in development for 10 years before I ever brought it to market and before I ever told anybody that it existed, because I needed to it's not to say that I never used it with clients. I did. That was my beta testing, but it wasn't ready for market until it had been proven that, yeah, this works. It actually got me a New York Times bestseller. It has made all of my clients for the last 20 years basically turn into bestselling authors of one way or another. Like, I have the proof to back up the quantum copy method works. Same thing with your book.
Is that a book that you've written that people can learn?
No. So it's currently I teach it in my writing retreats. If you book coach with me, if I ghostwrite with you, I teach it there. I also have a version of it on my website. If you want to do it on your own, you can go through the website and sign up and take the course and, and ask questions. But
nice.
To be honest,
that's so surprising to me.
That
you're a writer, but you haven't actually written the book about.
No,
that makes sense. You're making it a little bit. It's delivered in a less sort of hands-off way, which is just to have a book out there for somebody to read that you never get to talk to, versus having
that I'm a ghostwriter. I get paid to tell other people's stories.
Yeah,
I have zero desire to tell my own. I have incredible wisdom that I put out there and I use with all my clients, and that's how I know it works. But the idea of having to do a book tour to market my book, to promote my book, to have my name out there like that, that's not what a ghostwriter does. I have zero interest in that.
So I'm curious, how many books do you write? Do you just write one at a time? About how long does it take you to ghostwrite an average book?
Yeah.
What kind of expectations do you give your clients?
I mean, if it's something that's coming from a publisher and it's a New York Times style book, like they're actually wanting New York Times status, that could be over a year or longer. It's pretty common that it's over a year. If it's most of my clients who are just like, they want clout in terms of expertise and authority, they're looking to stand on more stages, they want on more podcasts, they want more media.
They want that collateral material.
They want that collateral.
And signs.
So those folks, truly the direction I would send you is a book of no more than 150 words, 90 days, you'd be in and out with me.
100, how many words?
I don't do it by word count. So it's usually 120 to 150 pages.
Oh, pages. Okay.
Pages is, I mean, elusive depending on how we design your book.
Yeah.
Short and approachable. The rule for me is anything under a 3-hour read. So if I was to hop a flight to California today I'm sitting in like Alberta, Canada. If I was to hop a flight to California, it's 3 hours. Could I finish a book in 3 hours? By the time I got to California, could I have had it read and been like, dang, that was a good book?
Okay. So how long does it take you to write with someone for that size book?
90 days. Minimum 90 days.
90 days. Yeah. And do you meet with them weekly?
I do, yeah. So depending on the client, but typically once or twice a week. There will be times when sometimes we need to throw in an extra meeting here or there if it's like I'm really stuck. The goal is for you to be somewhat accessible to me. A lot of people think that ghostwriting is like they toss me an idea and they never have to talk to me again. They're just going to get a book in 90 days. That's not how it works. It's a very collaborative experience. No matter what anybody tells you, ghostwriting is a collaborative experience. We have interviews, calls. You're still doing a ton of editing to the work to make sure it completely sounds like you.
Do you do research for them to fill it, or do you just pull from their knowledge?
To a certain extent. It depends on what the topic is. So a lot of times my authors will have IP of some sort. They'll have created a course or they coach a certain way or whatever. So a lot of times my research is like doing their courses or listening to them speak or whatever.
So you're really mostly drawing from their experience and their expertise.
Everything comes from their experience.
Versus going out and learning it for them and putting it in their book.
I'm not learning anything for you. I love you. I'm not. Like, my job is to fact check it. My job is to make sure that it's correct and that like we haven't overlooked something. But when I'm ghostwriting a book for you, to be clear, it is your wisdom, your IP. You are teaching it to me so I can translate it into a book and teach it to somebody else.
Yeah,
there is. I try not to put my wisdom or IP in it, which also means that sometimes I write books that I don't agree with. Right? That happens.
Interesting.
I write content sometimes that I'm like, this is not my belief. I don't see it that way. But it creates some beautiful conversations in the back end, and it usually ends up making a stronger book when I question something and go, well, what about this? Like, I actually have this wisdom and knowledge, and this doesn't make sense based on that. So how does that work? So you bring yourself to the book, but my wisdom isn't seen in the pages. That's not my place. It's your wisdom in the pages. I'm just the translator.
That's really neat. So how many clients do you work with in a year? Do you work with more than one at a time, or do you just say, okay, this 90 days is taken up, you can get on my list for the next 90 days? You know what I mean? Like, how do you do that?
So right now I usually have at least 6-month wait list. It's usually a year and a half, depends on what you need. It's 90 days of physical writing, but people often forget that there's homework that needs to be done before that comes from the client. So sometimes it's the client, finding me their talks and their, recording voice notes to me, explaining certain concepts or tools. Sometimes I've had a situation where I had to physically go and take a class with them so I could understand their process and how they worked. So all of that becomes part and parcel of it. So the writing is 90 days. The actual prep work, depending on what we're talking about, could be anywhere from 3 months more, like another 90 days, up to like a year and a half I've had. Yeah. So it really depends on the client. I tend to work. So if I'm working on a New York Times book at the time, oftentimes I only do one of those every year or every couple of years because they're exhausting. like truly exhausting, and I can't do much else when I'm doing those types of projects.
Yeah.
I actually prefer to work with business owners who are ready to market and use their book as IP, who are
simpler from start to finish.
who are well known and incredible humans, but they're not seeking a New York Times bestseller status anymore. Those are my favorite people. And those guys, typically there's like 4 to 6 of them a year max that I produce.
Right. Do you have like a package price for a book like that, or is your pricing more customized based on?
It's very customized, but everything basically for ghostwriting starts at 40,000 US for 90 days. And it goes up from there. If you want a New York Times bestseller, we start talking 6 figures. If it's going to be double the number of pages, we start talking bigger figures. If there's research that I actually have to spend a lot of time verifying, that that becomes a bit of an extra fee. If I need to travel to you, because I've had this with ghostwriting contracts, sometimes I need to physically be somewhere to take a course or a class, or to spend a week with you so you can explain how all this works or whatever. Those become additional fees. So it's always custom quoted, but I tell people to start with, if you're looking just basic and I'm not leaving my house or wherever I am to need to come to you, you're looking for 120 pages or so, we start at 40,000 and we go up from there.
And how do your clients find you, or how do you find them?
Kind of a best kept secret, which is kind of awesome. My name is
willing to share it?
Yeah, my name is basically spoken in rooms where things happen. So oftentimes I don't advertise really. I have a website. If somebody's curious, they can definitely check out the website. But for the most part, my name gets passed along. Somebody used me, had a really good experience, refers me out. Some big publishing companies still refer me out to their clients when they get, when they take somebody on. So it's usually word of mouth, but it's like the hush hush, I'm going to slide your name across the desk, and we're not going to talk about the fact that she probably wrote something for me too, kind of people.
Which is the wonderful phrase in your bio, you're a secret weapon.
I am a secret
weapon. You are the secret weapon.
Yeah. I meet lots of people all the time, especially at conferences and events, especially if I'm speaking now on podcasts. So some people find me that way as well. But most of the time, my calendar gets booked because somebody whispered my name in your ear and you were so curious, you sent me a text message to find out what it was all about.
Love it. So you do the writing, and then so someone hires you to ghostwrite their book. Then if they're associated with a publisher, then that's one path. But what do they do if they don't already have like a publishing deal? Are they self-publishing? Are they looking for agents, or is it just a hodgepodge of all that?
It's a hodgepodge, literally, of whatever. So when clients come, I do a couple learning sessions with them where I explain the different routes to publishing. We discuss what makes the most sense for them and their book and their timelines and what they want to do with it. But ultimately, the choice for what they do with their book is up to them.
And does your involvement go to that point, or you just get it written and then you hand it to them?
I get it written and then I have to pass it forward. Unfortunately, I'm too busy to take books all the way. I get asked that all the time, where people are like, you've had New York Times bestsellers, help us. I wrote them. I didn't do the market. I know how to get you there, but it's not something that I physically have the time to do.
It's very time consuming.
It is incredibly time consuming. That is a big task. It's also a lot of money. If we want to be straight up with authors, it's a lot of money to get your book to a New York Times bestseller. A lot of people think it's just heart and hustle. No, it's also heart, hustle, and a whole bank load of cash.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because I think it's, it's sort of one of those truths that people try to, they maybe unconsciously ignore. They've got.
I think there's lots of people that consciously ignore it.
New York Times bestseller, okay, but you got to understand what that really
minimum $1 million investment these days. Unless you've got that kind of coin.
It's a lot easier to be an Amazon bestseller. I'm a publisher. I'm an indie publisher, and I know how to help people get to that. And it's not, it's definitely an investment, but not nearly. But it's nice you can still claim to be a best-selling author, and Amazon everybody's familiar with. So.
And for a lot of people, to be honest with you, if they're just marketing their own book, they don't need the hassle and the pressure. They forget that traditional publishers offering advances. People think that that's them getting paid to write your book. Oh, no, it's not, my friend. That money is expected to be put back into marketing to sell your book. The advance is based on how many books your publisher thinks you're going to sell. And if you didn't sell those, you don't make royalties on anything else. Yeah. You don't make royalties until you've paid back that advance.
And advances are not very big anymore. They've really come down.
God, no. So they used to be in the like mid 6 figures. Now you're lucky if you get offered 20 grand most times.
Yeah. Oh, that would be awesome if you get that much. Yeah. The industry has really shifted, and there's goods and there's bads. Honestly, I love the fact on one end that there are no gatekeepers, which means you can decide to publish your book and put it out there, and nobody stopped you. And I think that's amazing. But on the flip side, there's a lot of really poor quality books that are going into the market, and that's not good. And that's
part of that is AI's fault, right? AI has made it really easy for people to produce really cheap, simple books, publish them. Legally, so far, the precedent in Canada and the US has been set that AI is not copyrightable. So if you write your book with AI, congratulations, you just lost your copyright. That no longer belongs to you. So theoretically,
yeah.
So like somebody else can go in, copy it word for word, ask AI to copy it word for word for you, upload it, print it, publish it, sell it, and make money off of it. And you don't have a leg to stand on.
Well, and we're seeing a lot. I don't know if you've seen it, but like on YouTube, there's all kinds of people promoting, you can, it's basically a shortcut. You can publish a book in just so many days and make loads of money. And I'm just like, that is just hurting. That is hurting the industry, because it's just, let's just call it what it is. It's just plain unethical. It's
going to be, so my theory on it is, I think we're going to see it as a bump for a couple of years until the market is super oversaturated. And the challenge is, anybody buying a book that's made by AI, darn well when you start reading it that it's AI. Like it is blatantly obvious. It's like, go on social media. If somebody's using AI to write their posts, right? AI has this very kind of weird way of trying to mimic human behavior.
It will get better, but I don't think it will ever have the humanness that comes from a shared experience or the emotion that
absolutely
it can't do
and
that.
Authors can use AI to support them and help them. I mean, I have used it with a client who, she got to a point in her book where she was writing a young adult fiction book, got to a point in her book literally where she was like, I don't know where to take this. I thought I knew, but like based on how I've been writing it, it doesn't make sense now. I was like, cool, feed all of that information into AI and ask it for 3 different variations of an ending. Don't use it to write it, but let it help you like come up with an idea. And in the end, she didn't use any of the 3, but it sparked something that she was like, oh, right. Yeah, I can use that. And so she was able to write her ending. If you use it to spark inspiration, even if you use it to help lay out your chapters, guys, all great. I am happy for that. Congratulations. But AI, and this is why quantum copy method, coming back to it, this is why it's so important, is because it comes down to beliefs, values, and human nature. If I can't evoke something in you, meaning feelings, y'all aren't robots. If I can't evoke feeling in you, I won't sell the book. Why do we become obsessed with books like Harry Potter or Loop Tale or Go for Stupid or Persuasion? Like, why do we fall for them? We fall for them because there's something inside of it that mimics and mirrors our human experience that makes us go, God, that was so human and that's so good. We love the tension. We love the feelings. We love the creativity. Your computer's not doing that. Sorry. Unless you're going to start going to bed with your computer at night. I mean, I'd rather take my hubby to bed. So your deal. Human or computer, take your pick.
Well, let's shift now over. I want to hear. So you provide the ghostwriting service, but then for those who just want to learn from you and maybe go and be their own writer, you offer courses, and some of them are on site. You call them, let's say, what was that word?
Creations.
Createcation. I love it. Tell me about Createcation. What's the whole philosophy behind that?
So a createcation is basically a vacation, usually a luxury vacation, if I'm honest, where we go and actually create together and build your book and get it either started, finished, or like, somewhere in the middle. But it's the idea of giving yourself time and space to actually create. And we do them in small groups. So I always do small group writing createcations. New Zealand has hosted us. We've been in Europe. We've done ones in North America. We've kind of gone all over Mexico as well. And it's really just a chance to like get away so that you can focus. Because the number one things that people say they can't write is, I don't have time and I'm too distracted. So we take away the time factor and the distraction and let you actually get your writing done. And you get one-on-one coaching time with me. You also get some group training sessions and group feedback. And at the end of it, people walk away empowered and inspired to finish their books, either on their own, or I do make an offer at my retreats to stay on for book coaching with me and finish your book with me if you need that extra support.
I love that. How long have you been doing that?
So my first one was back all the way in 2016 was the first time I ran it. I took a few years off because, you know, COVID, busy, all those things. And I came back again 2 years ago and started running them again. And my first one back was New Zealand. We had an amazing time. We had such a great group of like 6 women who showed up for a long weekend on an island off the coast of New Zealand. And we just, we had everything from a memoir to a business book to a poetry book written that weekend.
So just bring your goals with you and
yeah. And oftentimes the things they think they're going to write, by the time we actually talk it through, you'd be surprised how like much it's changed. And 2 of the women showed up like going, I've always wanted to write a book, but I don't have a topic. I don't know what I want to write about. And we together sorted it out. And I love them so much because there's something about being in the camaraderie and the community of writers. Being a writer is, you know, it's a very solitary experience most of the time. My desk is my bestie. Like I'm here all the time. Whereas when we're in the writers retreats, to be honest with you, most of the time when I'm not teaching or doing one-on-one sessions with my students, I'm actually writing my own stuff in between with you. So you're not only seeing, you know, learning from me, but you're actually physically watching my process happen as it happens. And for a lot of people,
writing their material to kind of give them something to inspire them, or you're just writing something else that they
No, I'm usually working on my own project, or I'm working on, it might be a client's project that I'm working through, but I want them to see in real time how I overcome the challenges, how I break through writer's block, how I figure out how to rewrite a chapter if it's not working, how I lay out my chapters, and what is my process for the strategy of writing a book, and where do I start? So I literally take them step by step through seeing it in real time, me doing it, so that they understand that like all of us at some point get caught up in writer's block. All of us at some point get stuck on like, oh, I don't know where this chapter is going, or all of the little tropes that kind of come from being a writer. And we break through it together because they watch me do it. I'm not perfect, guys. I'm a writer. There are many days where I stare at my screen and the blinking cursor and think that it's like somebody torturing me because I can't find the right words. And then there's other days when I'm on fire and can't write fast enough. The joys of being a writer. And we do it together. So we create together, we laugh together, we cry together, we eat together, and we create books together.
So if somebody wants to learn from you, but they can't get away or can't afford a trip like that, do you have courses? I think you were mentioning something like that.
So Quantum Copy Method it's technically a copy course, but I use it with, like I said, with my book authors all the time. So Quantum Copy Method is available on my website. You can go on there, check it out. It's going to be Write, WRITE, wordmagic.com. Easy and simple. I offer free, like there's one that's all about like helping improve your copy. It's a free 1-year email subscription where I send you one tip every single week about how to improve your copy. If you want to work books, there's a new book offer that will be on the website when it launches next week. Hint, hint, go check it out if you're curious. But creations, book coaching, ghostwriting, basically, if you have something,
they can learn about everything you offer there.
Yeah, show up. We'll talk books. I love having a good book conversation.
I love it. That will be so wonderful. And I know people will definitely want to go to your website and just see all that you offer and all that you're about. Is there anywhere else that you are? Do you have your own podcast or anything like that? Or do you have plans to do something?
You know what? I've done a couple informal like podcasts, literally informal podcast, video vlog podcasts that are on the website that share some of my insight from talking to copyright lawyers, from talking to editors and publishers about like what they're actually looking for, and then giving some of my unfiltered, which when you work with me, you'll learn, my unfiltered advice, and sometimes unsolicited, but you're going to get it anyway, advice on writing a better book, because it's something that I'm so passionate about. And I really think that there are so many stories in the world that aren't being told that could dramatically change people's experience, perceptions, beliefs, understandings. And I want to see more of those stories told. I think there's been a lot of same old, and the world is filled with new ideas that need to be seen.
I agree with you completely. We are definitely singing the same song, as we could say. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and some of your secrets. Appreciate that too. Look forward to continuing to see what you can produce, and definitely I want to go check out your website and learn more from you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.